What happens when the past refuses to stay buried? In this gripping story, a mother's quiet decision to protect her child's innocence collides with the father's dangerous desperation behind prison walls. As Huyen gently refuses to let her daughter visit a jailed parent, a fragile peace is shattered, setting off a chain of emotions: regret, love, fear, and obsession. Beyond the steel bars, a reckless plan begins to take shape, threatening everything she has fought to protect. Stay with us until the end to uncover how these choices collide. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share. Now, let the story begin. Thuc, Huyen's ex-husband, was serving his sentence in a distant correctional facility, a place surrounded by high concrete walls and silence heavy with regret. Each passing day there was meant to teach him discipline and repentance, yet it also froze his life at the exact moment he had fallen. Beyond those walls, the world continued to move on without him. Huyen had rebuilt her life slowly, carefully, piece by piece, learning how to be both mother and father to little Maya. Still, the shadow of the past had never completely disappeared. It lingered quietly, waiting for the right moment to return. That moment came on a gray afternoon when an unfamiliar knock echoed through Huyen's modest home. When she opened the door, she found her former father-in-law standing there, older than she remembered, his hair almost completely silver, his shoulders slightly bent under the weight of years and worry. In his hands were a small bag of fruit and children's snacks, offerings that revealed his true purpose before he even spoke. His eyes softened when he mentioned Maya's name, as if saying it alone gave him strength. He explained with a trembling voice that Thuc had been asking about his daughter constantly. The days in prison were long and empty, he said, and the thought of seeing Maya, even for a short visit, was the only light Thuc had left. The old man wished to take Maya with him to the prison, just once, so she could see her father, and so Thuc could feel, if only briefly, that he was still part of a family. As he spoke, his words carried not only a request, but also guilt, apology, and the silent hope that Huyen might show mercy where life had been cruel. Huyen listened without interrupting, her expression calm yet guarded. Memories rushed back, arguments, broken promises, nights filled with fear and disappointment, but she kept them buried deep inside. She looked toward the small room where Maya was playing, unaware of the conversation unfolding nearby, her laughter light and innocent. In that instant, Huyen understood that this visit was not merely about a father longing for his child. It was about the past knocking on her door, asking to be let back in. And as the air between them grew heavier, Huyen knew that whatever answer she gave would change more than just one afternoon. It would shape the fragile boundary between her daughter's innocence and a history she had fought so hard to leave behind. The silence that followed his request stretched painfully long, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Huyen slowly exhaled, her fingers tightening around the edge of the door, steadying herself. She knew this moment would come one day, yet facing it was far more difficult than she had imagined. Lifting her eyes to meet her former father-in-law's weary gaze, she chose her words with care, aware that a single sentence could wound deeply or heal gently. She began by thanking him for coming, for still caring about Maya despite everything that had happened. Her voice remained soft, almost apologetic, but beneath that gentleness lay an unshakable resolve. Huyen explained that Maya was still too young to understand the difference between punishment and justice, between a mistake and a crime. To a child, prison was not a place of correction, it was a place of fear. Cold bars, locked doors, uniformed guards, and an image of a father behind steel that could never be erased. She did not want that image to become the foundation of Maya's memories, the first clear picture of who her father was. As she spoke, her former father-in-law's hands trembled slightly. He tried to protest, saying that seeing her father might help Maya understand the truth someday, that children were stronger than adults often believed. But Huyen gently shook her head. She told him that truth could wait, innocence could not. There would be a time, she said, when Maya was old enough to ask questions, old enough to face reality without it shattering her sense of safety. Until then, Huyen felt it was her duty to shield her daughter from pain she did not yet need to carry. Her words grew more emotional, though she struggled to keep her composure. She admitted that she did not hate Thuc, nor did she wish to erase him from Maya's life. On the contrary, she hoped that one day Maya could meet her father in a place filled with sunlight rather than shadows, in a moment defined by honesty instead of iron gates. She wanted Maya to remember her father's voice telling stories, not echoing through a visiting room under strict supervision. Tears welled in the old man's eyes, and for a brief moment regret flickered openly across his face. He finally nodded, understanding that Huyen's refusal was not an act of cruelty, but of love. As he turned to leave, the weight in the room slowly lifted, yet a quiet tension remained. Huyen closed the door softly, pressing her back against it as her heart raced. She had protected her daughter for now, but deep inside, she sensed that the past was far from finished and that this fragile peace could be broken at any moment. Far away from Huyen's quiet home, beyond layers of concrete, steel gates, and watchful towers, Thuc sat alone in the dim light of his cell. Night had fallen in the prison, bringing with it a heavy stillness broken only by distant footsteps and the metallic echo of closing doors. The refusal, though never spoken directly to him, had already reached his heart. He sensed it in the unanswered letters, in the hollow days that stretched endlessly before him. Maya was not coming, and in that realization, something inside him began to fracture. At first, regret dominated his thoughts. He replayed memories of his daughter's tiny hands, her laughter, the way she used to cling to him without fear. Those memories became unbearable when contrasted with the reality of his surroundings: cold walls, a narrow bed, and a future measured in years of confinement. The idea that his daughter might grow up knowing him only as a man behind bars gnawed at his sanity. Shame twisted into bitterness, and bitterness slowly hardened into desperation. As days passed, Thuc began to observe his environment more closely. He listened rather than spoke, watched rather than reacted. He memorized guard rotations, noticed which cameras flickered for a second too long, which doors took an extra heartbeat to lock. Conversations with other inmates, once meaningless, now carried fragments of dangerous knowledge, whispers of failed attempts, rumors of men who had almost made it out. What started as idle curiosity evolved into calculated thought. Freedom, once an impossible dream, began to feel like something he could reach if he dared enough. In the darkness of his cell, Thuc convinced himself that escaping was not just for him, it was for Maya. He told himself that a father behind bars was worse than a father on the run. If he could get out, he could watch her from afar, protect her in ways prison never allowed. These justifications wrapped tightly around his fear, turning recklessness into purpose. The prison no longer felt like a place of punishment, it felt like a cage unjustly keeping him from his child. Meanwhile, Huyen lay awake at night, unaware of the precise danger taking shape, but burdened by a growing sense of unease she could not explain. Her decision had protected Maya's innocence, yet somewhere deep within her, an invisible thread trembled, as if the past were pulling hard, preparing to snap. While she fought to build a future rooted in peace and safety, Thuc was moving in the opposite direction, toward chaos and risk. And so, quietly and inexorably, two paths diverged. One was guided by love expressed through restraint and sacrifice. The other was driven by obsession disguised as redemption. Neither of them knew it yet, but the choices made in silence, behind a closed door and behind prison walls, were already racing toward a collision that would test them all.